Hey boys and girls, welcome to ELA today. This week we have been reading historical fiction stories, and today we are going to continue reading historical fiction story and using text evidence to answer those higher level questioning and establish and identify those cause and effect relationships. So let's do our quick recap just to remember what we have been doing. We'll have our vocabulary as always. We'll continue to use text evidence. We'll identify those cause and effect relationships. And in our text evidence higher level questions, we'll be discussing many different topics or standards that we've done this year so far. Theme, main idea, character setting, plot, maybe how the author feels about something. So as we read our historical fiction, we're going to be reviewing what we've learned all quarter and putting emphasis on our cause and effect in our text evidence. Our vocabulary of the week, go ahead and repeat after me. Amazement, bravery, disappear, donated, leader, nervous, refused, and temporary. Those are our vocabulary words of the week. We are focusing on cause and effect. Remember, boys and girls, the cause is why something happens and the effect is what happens. And some of those signal words to let you and I know that there was a cause and effect relationship are since, because, if, due to, as a result of, causes, leads to, consequently, therefore, then. So these are just clue words to help us know, ooh, there was a cause and effect relationship. And when we are identifying cause and effect, boys and girls, we want to ask ourselves, what happened? Why did that happen? If you can answer those two questions, you're able to determine cause and effect. Now, this is different than problem and solution. Alrighty, we are looking for the cause and effect. Why something happened, what happened because of that, okay? And yesterday, or this week, you read Jane's Discovery, which was also a historical fiction. Remember, historical fictions, it has made up characters, but these characters take part in real events that happened in history. Or they might meet a person from the past, okay? And the pictures a lot of times let us know that it takes place in the past. Maybe the clothes that they're wearing, or the landscape, or the area outside, or the stores. Let us know that, you know what, this was from the past many years ago. Okay, and then when you read Jane's Discovery, we came up with different answers for higher level questioning by using text evidence. We did that, and then afterwards, we created our cause and effect map on Jane's Discovery. We were saying what happened, why did it happen. So we're going to do the same thing today as we read our story. We're first going to, as we read, fill out our cause and effect. Why do we want to fill this out first? Because as we're reading and we have these cause and effect relationships, it'll help us to answer those higher level questions later. And it'll let us know, oh, I remember where that was. Let me go back to page 221 and find the answer. Okay, so as we read, we're going to create our cause and effect map. Okay, so today we are going to read a story called Finding Lincoln. Now, if we look at Finding Lincoln, boys and girls, this is by Anne Malaspina, and the paintings, you can tell, are by Colin Bootman. Now, in this illustration, boys and girls, we are at a public library, and on the door it says whites only. So that's our indication that this was from history, and we see this young man peeking through. Now, we've talked about before, many years ago, white people and black people couldn't be in the same facilities. They had different schools, different libraries, different drinking fountains, and that was called segregation. They were segregated. They were separate. And over time, we obviously have grown to be better, and we no longer have that. But this is a story from in the past when segregation took place. And so we're going to read along. I'm only going to read some of it. You will have today and tomorrow to complete your cause and effect table or map and answer the questions. Because this is a longer, in-depth story, boys and girls, I really want you to read it and then read it again, just like I would do. Okay, so let's go ahead and read. And as I read, I'm going to identify some cause and effect relationships. Read along with me. Okay, here we go. On his way home from school, Lewis walked past the main library. The door swung open, and Lewis could see an enormous room filled with books. Why, there must be 1,000,000 books in there, maybe more. Lewis wished he could go inside and count them for himself. The books reminded Lewis that he had to write an essay on President Lincoln. But the library was for white people only, just like the strawberry milkshakes at the drugstore lunch counter, the swings in the city park, and the best seats in the movie theater. It was 1951 in Alabama, and Lewis could play all his piano scales and roller skate backwards. Still, he couldn't borrow a book from the main library. "How about some lemonade?" asked Mama when Lewis got home. "I'm not thirsty." He sat down, kicking his foot against the table leg. "What's the matter?" Lewis didn't feel like talking. He was thinking that Daddy had books piled high by his bed, but he had read those books again and again. Now Daddy wanted a book on honeybees so he could learn how to keep beehives. If Mama was ever going to have fresh honey, Daddy needs to get inside the library too. "Maybe a little homework will cheer you up," teased Mama, as she let the biscuit dough rise for supper. All right, so let's stop there, boys and girls. We know that Lewis is our main character. We have Mama in it, but I can already tell that Lewis is our main character right now. And it told us the setting was in 1951 Alabama. So let me go back to my cause and effect. And I'm going to say Lewis is our main character for right now. We have Mama, so I'll go ahead and add her. Now, it also said that he had a report on President Lincoln. Well, we met President Lincoln back in Jane's Discovery, but remember, he wasn't president until the end of the story, so now we already made a connection. So our character is Lewis, and the setting was 1951, and I have my book right here as well. It says in Alabama. In Alabama, which is the Deep South. Alrighty, now go ahead. What has happened already in the story that we know, and why has that happened? Well, what happened? Lewis, he cannot borrow a book, right? We already know that is the effect. Remember, the what? I'm going to go ahead and write what happened. Okay, what happened? Lewis couldn't borrow a book. Let me go back on page 222. Lewis can't borrow books from the library. So, okay, now why can that not happen? Okay, so the cause is why. So a lot of times it's easier for Mrs. Davis to say what happened and then why did that happen. That's easier for me. But if you like to do the why first, that's up to you too. As long as you're able to identify the cause and effect, Mrs. Davis is fine with that. But what happened? He was upset. He could not borrow books from the library. Why could he not borrow books from the library? Because unfortunately, the library is for white people only. So notice, boys and girls, what happened? Why did that happen? All right, so we have Lewis. We're in Alabama in 1951. Lewis was upset, could not borrow books from the library. Why? Because the library was for white people only. All right, let's go back to our story. He seems pretty bummed right now. I'm going to move this up here. All right. All right, so let's go over here. There we go. Follow along with me again. Sorry, boys and girls. I'm looking at my book and I'm looking on the online book. That morning, Mrs. Yates had told Lewis's class about the Civil War. The North and the South went to battle over many things, including slavery. The Southern farmers said they needed slaves to plant the tobacco and pick the cotton. President Lincoln wanted the slaves to be free. He dared to stand up for what he believed in, and that made a lot of people mad, said Mrs. Yates. Lewis raised his hand. Did President Lincoln shake things up when he was a boy? Mrs. Yates didn't know the answer. Why don't you find out and write us an essay, she said, giving him a book about Lincoln. But the book didn't say anything about young Abe. Now Lewis stared at his blank paper. I need to find a book about President Lincoln when he was a boy, he told Mama. I have an idea, Mama said. After the biscuits were baked, she took Louis to the basement of their church. She and her friends had started a small library where people donated books they didn't want anymore. Louis saw cookbooks, mysteries, and a book of maps, but no books about President Lincoln or honeybees. One day soon we'll be checking books out of the main library. Just you wait, Mama said on the way back home. Louis didn't want to wait anymore, and he wasn't going to. Ooh, so he doesn't want to wait, and he wasn't going to, so something's going to happen. All right, are there any other cause and effects? What happened on this page? What happened? Why does that happen? Well, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint, and I know what happened. Louis has to write a report on Abraham Lincoln. Can you tell me why that happened? The why would be the cause. It happened because Louis asked Mrs. Yates a question about Abraham Lincoln. And she didn't know the answer, did she? So Louis asked Mrs. Yates a question about Abraham Lincoln, and she did not know the answer. So what happened? He has to write a report on Abraham Lincoln. Why did that happen? Because he asked Mrs. Yates a question, and she didn't know the answer. Alrighty, so again, what happened? Why? And now, obviously, he is going to do something because it says Louis didn't want to wait anymore, and he wasn't going to. So your job, boys and girls, is to finish reading the story, and you are going to continue with your cause and effect relationships, and then when you are finished, you are going to answer your text evidence questions. This has multiple pages, so you're going to go read page 226, 227, 228, 229, 230 through 33, 35. All right, so you're going to go read the rest of the story. This is so exciting. I'm going to have to read it as soon as I'm done with this. Okay, so you go on McGraw-Hill, read Finding Lincoln, complete the graphic organizer, and then answer your text evidence questions. I would like us to do, let's see, I have 2 cause and effect relationships. I would like you to do, let's see, at least 3 more at least. So do 3 or more cause and effect relationships. So you'll have a total of at least 5. I know you can do it. If you have any questions, message me on Schoology, message me on Class Dojo, and we can work through it together. All right, boys and girls, very nice job today. Just to recap your assignments, you had your vocabulary practice. You're going to complete your cause and effect map, answer your questions, and then complete today's discussion post. All right, you have a wonderful day. I will talk to you soon.